Hi everybody, this is Jason Stallings, and today we're going to talk about Portishead. So today's record is Roseland NYC Live, and this is a really great example of kind of translating quote-unquote electronic music into a live setting in a really great and effective way. Over here behind me, you see the seminal album "Dummy" by Portishead, which is an album that, in my opinion, is definitely a masterpiece. But the experience is where it really lies in a different kind of realm between this and that. If you want a more expansive look at their creative output and what they're capable of, Dummy is definitely a great place to start. I think that the initial influences of in trip hop of old cinema, old spy movie themes, things like that are really interesting in that record. And the kind of the fact that they've never done a James Bond type theme is just still mystifies me. At least from a musical perspective, they seem like a perfect fit. But whereas this is Dummy's a very relaxed, chill, kind of experimental, listening experience as a piece of art. Translating I've always been a proponent of the idea that art, first and foremost, should be human. You can use electronic elements as a tool of sorts, but the experience of and we're seeing that more and more now with the emergence of AI and the debate about using that for things like movie and film and music, and you see the negative reaction to it, which in my opinion is very justified, just to the soullessness of it. But everything about this is excellently translated from, where the initial creation of Dummy was this exercise in sort of taking soundscapes and experimentation and just chopping things up and putting it back together and creating this pastiche. They realized that into guitars, bass, drums, full orchestra, and a DJ. Somebody I worked with in this past year commented one song, "Oh yeah, wow! I wonder if Linkin Park, I wonder if they there's any correlation." I'm like, well, yeah, this band, if there's any influence from bands in the late '90s, early 2000s, with using a DJ, Deftones, Incubus. I guess Limp Bizkit, if you want to say that, and Linkin Park. Korn, I guess, does that. I don't really know. Don't care. But if there's any influence from hip hop music, so to speak, Portishead did it perfectly first. Trip hop is very much its own niche genre. Some acts are better than others, but Portishead is kind of the top of the heap, so to speak. And what's interesting about them is if you read into the lyrics, it's very somber, very morose. And in interviews, Beth Gibbons has basically been nah, that's not really who I am, and that's fine. I think that's you should always me being an artist. There is just because you express something in a somber manner or a emotional and complex manner doesn't mean that's who you are as a person 100% of the time. Artists and just people in general they experience a range of emotions, which is why I've always gravitated towards art and music that does that, versus I think that was the downfall of, as much as I love rock and some, harder like metal and rock-ish music. Kind of the like fault of it is at a certain point, especially going into like the early 2000s beyond, was like they only kind of expressed one emotion, and if there's any explanation for the decline in its popularity, it was just there's only so much people can really take of listening to angry white guys screaming into the mic. And there's different levels of that which have its own artistic merit, or at a certain point maybe lack thereof. But anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. But yeah, if you want to listen to something really similar ish vein, I mean, PJ Harvey's a great place to look. This is I would say there's a big difference between listening to Portishead and PJ Harvey in terms of their sound, though. I would say PJ Harvey kind of evolved from this very raw, grungy artist, and then this being kind of the mid period, there's a little bit of that, but he starts to hear more pop sensibility, musicality, and getting into her later material, it's even leans more into that. But I think that there's just such an interesting world to explore with like music from the UK that sometimes gets overlooked by people in the United States. Anyway, getting into the track list of Roseland. I love the instrumentation and the use of the orchestration in some of these songs. Like, it really brings everything to life. The only song that I don't really care for, like, I'd rather listen to the LP version of Sour Times like 100 times over than the live one. But everything else is just like elevated, like times 100 or beyond that. Excuse me. So the first side you have Humming, Cowboys, All Mine, and like especially with like Cowboys, I think that's like kind of their second LP, which I like. The more you get into Portishead's discography, you hear this tendency to want to kind of be a little more sonically adventurous and like play with like discordant music, so to speak. Whereas like earlier in the discography, it's a little more sing-songy and melodic. And not to say that there isn't like, they still sound the same, like the same band. They're just trying to kind of push beyond their artistic confines that they set for, if they set themselves up for like a certain sound in their first record, and their next subsequent records, they kind of push beyond that a little bit. And, I think I'm always going to gravitate towards the first album or two, but not to say there's nothing to be gained from the third LP. It's just a preference thing. Second side, you have Mysterians, Only You, which is a real highlight. Half Day Closing and Over, pretty good songs. The second disc, you have Glory Box, which is probably their best song, arguably, and an interesting but not particularly my cup of tea version of Sour Times. And probably like the real crescendo of the album is Roads and Strangers, which is just, like, I listen to Strangers constantly. It's just always in rotation, whether it's on my in my vinyl listening or just day-to-day streaming, whatever. But yeah, like where like you really hear some growth in a live setting and like things breathe and there's more energy is in Strangers, Only You, All Mine. You sort of have like, you see the dynamics and like how effective this band was like communicating with each other and like verbally, non-verbally. Like they're not just a band that combines electronic and handmade elements. They're not just this band that like has these ideas and then puts them on record, they are a band that can communicate them very effectively live. The singing is especially strong. You really, whereas like Gibbons' voice might be a little more restrained on record, like she really belts out some things more in the live setting, which is really just wonderful to listen to. But yeah, like there's more. I hesitate to say there's no more drama in the live setting, but that's just kind of like live albums for me are a tricky thing. You don't. There's definitely like what you're hearing on this is what you hear on the record, but like just more. And sometimes they change things up. That's all right. I think that's appropriate. Like. If you're releasing a live record and all you do is just regurgitate your songs as is, like, that's all right. People pay to hear that, people come to see that, but it's kind of cool to see a band be like, okay, let's see how this might evolve if we change this up a little bit. And I think it's to the credit of the band that they made that choice, especially with Sour Times. While it might not be my favorite song, or version of that song, I think it's really cool that they tried it and they expanded it and they added some intensity to it. But yeah, always would rather listen to the version of Dummy. Not a whole lot more to say about this. I think, in my journey of listening to music, I got into this band a little bit later. I had kind of avoided them for a while just because there's this moroseness about it, and then you listen to they're just kind of a cool band that wanted to experiment, do really fun stuff, and fuse elements of hip hop and traditional music, some rock music, some jazz, and things like that. So and a lot of people the first time they hear them, they're just like, whoa, what is this band? Who are they? Arguably people have taken influence from them, but nobody's ever had the they are an interesting band because they have this deep musical lexicon and they have an understanding of the work they're making and how to enrich it, but also at the time, Dummy was made a long time ago, but even then they had a very forward thinking attitude and they had this foresight into how do we take traditional music, modern technology for the time, and push this medium forward in a way that feels organic and interesting, engaging, and innovative and dynamic. That's a lot of times my hesitation or resistance to electronic music. Arguably, I don't know if this is an electronic band. In the traditional sense, not a lot of dynamics to me. It's just depends on what you're talking to. I don't really care for EDM, trance, things like that. Just that's for some people, that's great. It just doesn't do anything for me. But if you want to call this electronic, and by some measures, sure, you could say that. Bonobos is a similar artist, though there's no instrumentally, but this is a band that does as a full band. They sing, they play their instruments. So, and it's really good to see, listen not only to Roseland NYC live on vinyl, but also just checking out the videos. You really see how they flesh these ideas out in real time, which is kind of cool. Anyway, I'm an artist. Go to jason-stallings.com to check out my work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.